welcome to B2B Bites, the big commerce B2B podcast where we deep dive into the world of manufacturing and distribution. Each episode, we bring you conversations with industry leaders who are shaping the future of B2B e-commerce. Today, I am thrilled to be joined by two e-commerce veterans in the space from AmericanEagle.com. Derek Cwik, Director of Integrations, and Michael Vasta, SaaS e-commerce practice lead. American Eagle, for those of you who aren't familiar, is a leading web design, development, and digital marketing agency that prides itself on driving growth for manufacturers and distribution businesses as well as retailers. Welcome to the show, Derek and Mike.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much, buddy.
Thank you for joining me. We've obviously known each other for a while, but our audience might not be familiar with American Eagle and may not be familiar with either you or Mike. So if you could start just by giving us a bit of background on American Eagle and then yourselves. How did you find yourselves in the world of B2B e-commerce?
Sure. A little bit on AmericanEagle.com. We are primarily based in the Chicago area, but we have offices nationwide and worldwide. If you've been to O'Hare Airport, you have flown over our central offices. We've been around for quite a long time, got our start doing Apple II text adventure games back in the day, and in the 90s started doing websites and have been doing it ever since. We've got a particularly large, experienced organization with a lot of people who've been here almost from the start, including Derek, who's been around for quite a bit.
Well, listeners, I'm Derek Cwik. I've been with American Eagle for 17 years. In agency speak, that's like 3 millennia.
Mm-hmm.
I am an elder millennial. To some of you, I'm a geriatric millennial. That being said, my journey here started on e-commerce development. I worked on many of our enterprise e-commerce accounts, which then shifted into supporting sales, and now leading a solutions architecting and integrations team.
I'm comparatively a baby in that I've been here a little over 8 years. In my previous life, I was a college professor of classics. So there's a direct line between my education and B2B e-commerce, clearly.
Paint it for us. Paint that direct line. Paint the picture.
Right.
Dr. Vasta.
The only time I get Dr. Vasta anymore is when someone's like, yeah, great idea, Dr. Vasta. You really pulled that one off well. Or my wife in particular, excellent job, professor. After adjuncting around and kind of bouncing around, I ended up here at American Eagle. And I think my first site was actually B2B, and it kind of opened my eyes. When you think of e-commerce, everyone's familiar with Amazon, retail things. You've bought something online. I remember the first time I had to ask my parents to use their credit card, I think to buy some Star Wars Episode 1 figures off of ToysRUs.com. Successfully dated myself there. Then here, I had a floral supplier, and you suddenly realize that, most of the business world is happening before any of us ever actually see it. And you get to learn all of the fascinating things about it. With that florist, it was, how do we calculate a shipping rate for roses that are coming out of Colombia that need to get to Miami and then get to an actual florist and do that before the roses wither. So it was really fascinating. And each project has been different in a brand new industry. And that's where I think the academia helps, because you have to, all right, here's a brand new topic, here's a new course you have to teach or whatever, go become an expert as quickly as you can. And so that's what we try to do here. When we get a new industry, a new customer, go embed yourself. And now I can do things like pick out particular plumbing supply brands when I see them out in public and things like that, just from having to go through that before.
Yeah, I get it all the time. How have you been there 17 years, Derek? And it's like, well, every day is a joy. The customers we get, the businesses we work with, we're always learning.
It is always different.
Yeah, discovering, curiosity, solving.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic.
It is a different puzzle every single day that you get to have. And while it can certainly be tiring, it is new challenges. You never just kind of settle into that complacency or that groove. And it's cool. You do get to see that whole other side of the world that powers everything we do. That's what B2B ultimately is, right? It's how did it get to the shelf? Well, someone had to make the plastic that was on there. Someone had to put the dye in the clothes.
Yeah.
Somebody makes the sticker with the price labels on it. And we get to be part of that process.
Yeah, you look at the world differently for sure. Your perspective changes on everything once you
Oh,
start
yeah.
clicking in this space.
Yeah, it's almost like you're seeing the Matrix code, right? You're seeing everything that's behind all of it, where you're just like, yes, I know that water bottle got here. Okay, how did it do that? It had to get sourced. It had to get bottled. It's going through a distributor. It's going to someone. And then eventually we're placing a purchase order so we can buy the cases of water. All of that chain is there, and we get to see it all process. And it's really fascinating.
Yeah, I was actually driving between Houston and Austin yesterday. And as you drive, there is not much. Once you get outside of Austin, once you get outside of Houston, there is not much on that road, but there are loads of B2B businesses, whether they're selling construction materials, construction equipment, they might be selling HVAC parts, widgets. And as I'm driving down, I think to myself, I wonder how they make their purchases. How are their customers purchase from them? And how are they, purchasing from their suppliers? It does change the way that you think once you're really, engrossed in the kind of manufacturing distribution world. You do think about that world a little bit differently. And obviously you're working with customers that might be new to online, might be quite digitally mature, but need to modernize those processes. Maybe for our audience, kind of frame, how do you approach that? And how do you think about, new customers coming in, they've never been online before. How do you think about framing up the project that they're about to go on, moving online? How do you approach it? And then maybe for a more digitally mature customer, how do you do it there too? Maybe they're on a legacy e-commerce platform. They're not happy with the performance. It's slowing. They can't grow, expand into new regions. Maybe they've grown inorganically, acquisitions, and they can't launch them. How do you approach those projects, and how do you think about them?
Sure. I think, putting on my digital strategy hat for a moment, when we have someone who's coming online for the first time, um, it's a good deal of understanding their business process, right? Really embedding with them, making sure we know how their sellers actually work, what is successful with them, and how do they engage with their customers. And then what can we do to replicate that online? Now, with some, we're able to take them to their run in the crawl, walk, run stage right away because they align very well with a particular platform or a technology. Others, it is that crawl at first. And so understanding the core aspects, making sure that they don't bite off more than they can chew, as well as then giving a good experience. Because if you're coming online for the first time and you give your customers a worse experience than they had through their traditional methods, they're going to say, cool, I'm still faxing in the order. I'm still writing it on a 2x4 in a Sharpie and sending you a picture of what I want for my order. But if you do a good job and they realize how easy it is to now do this, how it can be a complementary tool to your sales team instead of a competitive or cannibalistic tool, it's really, really great to have there.
Yeah, and it's a relationship that's predicated on everybody doing work. In many cases, Mike has to shepherd the client in terms of, here's what we need from you guys. Here's how you can help pull the string so that we can get this thing done.
Right.
Sometimes it means reflecting on your data. It's rough. It's not ready. And that's not something we can just magically fix. Sometimes it's we need to bring the right personnel in from your IT because you want real time and you've got a legacy ERP and we've got a very modern front end. Let's figure this out together. So it's a we in delivery, not just an us by any means.
Right. The partnership aspect is really, I think, the most important part. When our customers, when our merchants know that they have an advocate for their business on our side, and then they act as an advocate for us and what we want to accomplish, we have our most successful partnerships. We pride ourselves on the fact that a lot of our customers have been around for 10, 15 years. And I think it's because of the embedding, the true understanding of your business, not just what can we do, but what can we do for you that stands out. And when you're making those first steps online, you want that, right? If somebody could just pick something up off the shelf, they would, right? Why wouldn't you if you could have that? When you invoke any agency, much less American Eagle, you want someone to guide you, to walk you through, someone who's had the experience to now deliver what you need for your customers.
Mike's starting to sound like a cult leader real quick. I'm the shepherd. This is the way. But honestly, that's the way it's got to be. It's there's this implied trust when they sign with us that
Right.
you guys are going to help us get through this. The reality is we need them to trust us that we do this all day, every day. I've been here 17 years. Mike's been here 1/2 Derek years, and that's incredible stuff that you can't. You at your job, you're your expert. I'm not going to tell you how to run your business and what's the best way to do your thing. Help me understand you. You help us. We'll help you understand us, and we'll get this done together.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when I think about, when I first started, how much a project cost and stuff like that. I came out of the world of academia. Seeing sums like this thrown around make me go, oh, this is more money than I've ever seen in my life. And I think that's helped because you want to take care of the people who are investing in you, right? This is not a website is not a cost, it's an investment. The technology is not a cost, it's an investment. And we have a responsibility to take care of that investment for them, to help them grow their business and to do things easier and do things better than they've been doing right now.
Yeah, you've worked with, hundreds of manufacturers and distributors. What are the things that often come up as blockers? You probably mentioned one of those already, which is kind of product data and ERPs not necessarily being modern enough to connect in. But are there other things that, come up more frequently than not that manufacturers and distributors haven't often considered or thought about when they approach these kind of digital transformation projects that often become, a blocker that if they had thought about beforehand would have made these things go more smoothly? With your such deep experience, hopefully our audience, as you share these, can help and learn from that.
I think the biggest thing is being open to new ways of doing things if it means you can be more efficient, and to understand what you actually have as a business. There was one project I was working on, where they kept referring to the AN integration. Everyone kept saying like, oh yes, we have the AN integration, that's what handles it, etc. And no one really knew what that meant. And as we were going through requirements and doing it, eventually we found out that Anne is someone who worked in receiving, who actually was copying and pasting everything for about 20 years from one system to another, and people just thought it was magic. And they realized this, and we got a hold of her and asked her, like, do you want to still be doing it? She's like, no, I want to do my real job. Like, what can you do to help me out with this? I don't want to just have to have that. And so by looking at those business practices, understanding how and why you do things, you can often find greater efficiencies and improve it. And it helps too when you're thinking about like a technology investment or things like that. If you are willing to, yes, it might not be the way we've always done it, but it still accomplishes the same goal. And now I can be out of the box or free for doing that. Well, why wouldn't you take advantage of that? And once we get to there, once we kind of get past that, things start flowing. And so I would say, to companies who are getting into this spot, be open, look for those opportunities to change things and modernize if you can, even if it isn't the way that you've always done it, because you might find that it's a lot easier on the other side.
Mike's perspective is largely around delivery, right?
Yes.
His side is very intimate on getting it done. I sit more on the sales side where I'm just trying to crack things open and not scare, but be mindful that challenges do exist. And the indicator for me in those early sales conversations is that momentary pause or hesitation after a question. So I'll say something like, tell me about how you guys manage pricing. And the folks that have simple pricing or things that are easily, implemented on a commerce system may just shoot right into it. The folks where it's like, well, see, the thing is, we've got these customers, some of these customers, and I know right then that that's going to be a hard area. That's going to be difficult to replicate. And then the words, real time or calculated, or we're not sure until we start building out a quote in our ERP what their pricing is because it was set up 15 years ago. That's the moment where it's like, yep, we know what kind of project this is going to be and how we've got to tackle it differently than the guys who come in and say, yeah, it's a price list. We've got 5 of them. It's XYZ.
Right.
Yeah, I think that the number of customers that I talk to or prospects that I talk to that are stubborn in the ways that and the processes that have been around for 20 plus years don't want to change, but actually, a part of our job as an e-commerce platform and our sales team and our customer team is to guide them through that journey alongside obviously partners like American Eagle to open up, to crack that nut. I quite like that analogy. Let's explore this underneath. How can we modernize that? It shouldn't be copy and pasting from one system into another. We can automate that. But did you really need 100,000 different price books? Could we maybe simplify this? It might make your business actually run more smoothly. This might be an efficiency gains, not just from an e-commerce perspective, but kind of across the board. And you kind of walked us down here, which is kind of what my next kind of topic I wanted to touch on, which is sort of integrations. They're so key to the success of manufacturing distribution. There are so many 3-letter acronyms in this space. We've got ERP, CRM, CPQs, PIMS, DAMs. It just keeps going on and on and on. So I'm curious, are there some kind of recent examples of projects that you guys have worked on that have been particularly hairy, and how you've kind of approached those integration problems and kind of how you've solved them? Maybe they were complex pricing, really complex catalogs, that sort of thing.
This is an easy question. If you'd asked us, can you describe some integrations that are easy? We're really going to be scratching our head here.
We'd have to edit out about 10 minutes of dead space.
That's hard.
I'm not asking that. I've been in this space too long. I know. Yeah. I said this on a podcast. We did one a couple of days ago. I said on that pod, if anyone tells you that it's out of the box, it's plug and play, click it, it will work, that might work in 5% of cases. But if you've in any way customized any of those workflows or any of those systems, it's not. So don't trust them.
Right, exactly. And I mean, in what B2B business hasn't customized all of it? If they've just turned their ERP on for the first time, yes, then the connector will work. Have you touched it? Well, then now we need to get involved.
Yeah, I would say this. I've been here, as we've discussed now at length, for almost 2 decades. And I am an infant compared to many of our B2B customers and how long those employees have been with their business.
Mm-hmm.
And the implied effort and change and knowledge and customization that they've made to their operations, to their software, is decades long. And to simply say, we've got this front-end solution that's just going to turn it on and just all work and delight your buyer, your end customer, that's ripe to fail all around. They're gonna hate us. The customers are gonna hate them. Nobody wins. So I'd say we be honest about that up front, and there's no harm in saying, listen, experience shows that there's no easy button, but let's be ready together. And we don't do it alone either. We bring in a lot of VARs and other partners of ours that are ERP experts. That is the center of excellence for a lot of these businesses, and deliver together. We just got to work through the hard stuff together.
Right. I think a key, when you're thinking of integrations, is you have to play nicely with others. Whether that's the software needs to play nicely with each other, or integration partners, or things like that. You're bringing disparate things together in a single, unified, ideally seamless experience. And so you need to be able to cooperate and understand each other's requirements and where the balance is. Like it's communications and balancing of relationships, but among machines in a way, right? Like that's kind of the job that an integrator has. The same way that you try to manage egos and personalities among people. Now, all right, I need NetSuite to talk to the payment gateway and talk to the PIM and all of these things. And they each have their own little peculiarities, and we need them all to cooperate just this one time to get an order through.
Mike, you mentioned NetSuite. It's a good example of, NetSuite ERP They have a bolt-on e-commerce system, Cwik Commerce.
Mm-hmm.
Yet we get a lot of opportunities from NetSuite users saying, I need something else on the front end. And you might think, oh, as centralized as that front end solution is, NetSuite Commerce, why would you need something else? And the reality is because NetSuite Commerce functions like NetSuite Commerce for basically every NetSuite customer, and all NetSuite customers are different.
Mm-hmm.
On the other end of the spectrum, we have a client like RDO Equipment, where their ERP team is stocked by ex-Microsoft Dynamics employees.
Yep.
And you'd think that'd be an easy integration. We've got the experts at our fingertips here. And yet it was a very complex, challenging integration that, we can't just pick that up and drop it in the next Dynamics integrated solution.
What made that complex, Derek?
Mike, you want to take this? You want to?
Oh, it's
2
years of my life. Let's flash to. So it's actually a very interesting example when we talk about that, where not a single system met their needs. Right? They have the e-commerce aspect of their business, but also the content that needs to deliver and the thought leadership they have to present. Because they are in the agricultural business, their end users live a life, right? Like this is the life of agriculture. And if you don't come across as knowing your stuff, well, we're never buying from you, right? So we had to find things to do. And so we were able to meld a CMS with BigCommerce's e-commerce there to deliver what they needed. But because they are such a large organization, because they have been around for so long, they have these legacy systems that work very well for what they need to do in terms of customer management. We talked about real-time complex pricing, where somebody has a handshake deal with someone they've been doing business with for 20 years. Now I need that part price to show up on the web.
I usually just call John. He's got the pricing book.
Literally, that's what we're doing. And how do you translate that into something that is a price at rest so it can be performant? Because when you're out in the field and your machine is down and you need to find that part, you can't wait, right? Like, if I think about something in my house breaks, I can wait for Amazon to deliver it, a day later. But when you're a farmer, if your machine goes down, time is money immediately. And so we needed to be very responsive to that on the site. And so we have all of these different systems trying to talk to each other, often competing with one another. Is the ERP version of the customer the same as the sales lead that's in the CRM? And the way that we tried to reconcile it is through a middleware orchestration. So having everything flow through in the middleware, acting as traffic cop, with synchronization tables and concordances, so that we know, John Smith at gmail.com is also customer 123 in this system, and ABC over here. And how do we pull all of that together so when they go into the My Account, yes, that's the tractor that I own, and this is the part that I need. It was a challenge, but it was a really fun challenge to try to put it all together. And I think it's worked out really well for them. And they've been able to take what had always been almost a corner store type business, where you go in and supplement it with the additional online sales without sacrificing that corner store appeal, where the parts guy behind the counter.
Yeah, and actually, for those listening, that was RDO Equipment. If you haven't checked out their site, you should. It's a beautiful site, but it brings into your point, right, Mike, which is it's built for the folks that are out there in the field using that machinery. So it gives them the information that they need. But that doesn't mean it has to be, some kind of green screen type experience. It's not. It's a really nice experience on the site as well. So that kind of merging of a good kind of consumer like experience, but with the complexities of B2B being wrapped in, I think is really important, right, for a kind of a modern shopper who's expecting, a fast performance site that has the information that they need.
Right. I mean, I know we're all B2B folks, so we might be a bit biased here, but I think that that's where the fun work is happening at this point. Like, B2C is B2C. We know what it is, right? We kind of can go through the motions in some ways for it. But with B2B, you have that challenge of people were used to faxing in orders. People are used to that green and black screen. How do we give them the experience that matches what they get everywhere else in their life without sacrificing the utility and the functionality? The ordering process is going to be a bit different. Some customers need to have multiple visits. They have to do a lot of research because they're requiring fabrication or things like that. Others are distributing a simple part and they need to get through as quickly as possible without any deviation or sidetracking. And it increases that challenge, but also the satisfaction of pulling it off well. When we do something like an RDO equipment, you can kind of sit back and be like, hey, we did a good job there. Their customers are happy. The merchant is happy. It might have got hairy there at times, but we were able to do it. And that makes the job really rewarding.
I love it. An area that maybe pivoting slightly, an area that people are really focused on at the moment, of course, is AI. I'm curious how you at American Eagle are kind of approaching those discussions with manufacturers, distributors, what you're advising that they do, that they look at, how do they approach this transition, it feels like, into some form of agentic commerce. Obviously, we don't know what's coming, but how are you thinking about that?
Well, Mike and I, we're trying to understand it just like the rest of the world's trying to understand where AI fits in and who is ready for introduction of AI for that merchant that is digitally immature. That's a phrase I'm not too fond of, but I tend to use quite a bit. But for that company that's looking to dip their toe into getting online, the challenge of just running a new line of business, right, and engaging your customers differently is a feat in and of itself, right? They're not ready for AI, but where AI can be leveraged is in delivery of the product on our side, so we can help with maybe improving product content or marketing content for the site. For example, we have a client that has many locations, retail locations, that needed help in generating content for each one of their stores so that Google can differentiate. We leaned in on AI to help curate that content. Of course, we had to feed the engine, teach it a little bit, but it really took away a lot of man hours from our side and from their side as well. They didn't have to go and generate it. We didn't have to go generate it, manually speaking. For a more mature company, like if we're to use RDO as an example, they are doing things like they have smart lockers, right? They have machines in the field that are smart. They're GPS and mobile internet connected. Things like automated restocking, forecasting of inventory needs based on customer history and general consumption of consumable parts. Those are things that they're looking at to help make the buying journey of their end user simpler, right? So letting AI drive a lot of the automation for things that a human would normally have to think or process. Look at a report, get an email from Jim in receiving, and act on it. A lot of that can be supplemented or supported by AI nowadays.
I think from the merchant side, even those who might not be digitally mature enough to jump in, I think people see AI as a shortcut as opposed to an enhancement sometimes, where it's like, hey, why can't you just throw ChatGPT on this? And then I sit back and, can dive into a Scrooge McDuck pile of gold. Those who are just getting started, it's all about the data. To get to a point where you can take advantage of some of the things Derek is talking about, the data needs to be strong. So everyone at any level, regardless of how mature you are, if you want to be involved in AI and machine learning, work on your data across the board, whether it's product data, customer data, your order data. Giving that to the AI agent is going to result in a lot more quality in what you receive. and a greater trust factor, right? We've all Googled something and seen the AI response at the top, and we're like, that is entirely wrong. That's insane. And we know it's because they were reading a Reddit post, and that was the most popular upvoted and ended up there. If you don't want your reports to end up that way, if you don't want your business intelligence you're gathering to end up that way, make sure your data is clean. And again, that's something that everyone can do, from someone who's first getting online, just starting on your business, to the largest of a manufacturer and distributor that's out there who's been doing this for 50 years.
Yeah, the common complaint that we have in B2B is the merchant saying, we're spending so much time in customer service answering simple questions like, where is my truck? Like, when is my order going to arrive? Right? And the amount of time spent to determine that is nuts, right? We can't just magically fix that with AI. That's not something AI is just magically solving for. If you can't today solve for basic questions like that, we're never going to get to that next. We can't unlock AI for you as a business yet, right? It's let's get the fundamentals down. Let's get those basic questions answered through a digital portal or site, and then we can enrich those experiences where we do bring like an AI agent into the mix that can lean in on that data that is available. It's just now through a medium that's more either conversational or not human driven.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point, which is if that data isn't readily available, an AI can't consume it, and there's no way an AI can respond to that answer. Or if it is, it's definitely hallucinating because we don't know where it found that information in the first place. So fix that data first, and that product data. But actually, I think, Derek, that's such a good point. It's not just product data. It's not just tech specs on the products that you're selling. It's inventory data, it's order data, it's invoice data. Is all of that readily available? Do you get live updates on where your trucks are in the field, what they've delivered, when that package is being? If you don't have that information, AI can't help your customer answer that question. It can't help your operations team, be more efficient either. I think that's such a great point. I think this has been a really great conversation as we sort of come to the end here. American Eagle, you guys, we've been partners for longer than I've been at Big Commerce. I doubt it's been the full 17 years, though. I should have measured it, I'm sorry, in Derek Cwik years or increments.
We just created a new unit of measure on.
Oh no, we got to put that on a site. Pounds,
Right.
feet, yeah, and
geriatric millennial unit of measure.
I love that. You've won our B2B Excellence Awards before. I'm just curious, is there a big commerce build that you guys are particularly proud of? And maybe just for our audience, kind of walking through what was so great about that build, what was great about what you were able to achieve, maybe the complexity of the business itself, just as we kind of wrap up.
So I helped on board our partnership with Big Commerce a half geriatric millennial ago. And right when Vasta got started.
It was my first project.
Yep. And one of the clients that I'm most proud of is what was Freund Container and is now Berlin Packaging. The things we did, they're a B2B company based here out of Chicago. And what we did for them with Big Commerce was, at the time, and I'd say still is, just an incredible implementation solving for their business needs. When many, I think, competing agencies and even the client at the onset thought we were doing the impossible. And I say that because the goal that was stated when that project was being sold was, if we can make this a success, the rest of Berlin, they're going to get on board. We are Freund Packaging, the little drop in the bucket for what Berlin is. We're a tiny division. You can think of us as the startup within a larger conglomerate. Our goal is to try new things and disrupt. And it wasn't just a success. It was beyond a smashing success, where Mr. Berlin came and said, we're moving it all to this model that the little guy created. And that was, against the giants. we were up against the tall shoulders, big enterprise B2B solutions that otherwise wouldn't have gotten off the ground. So it's still, in my mind, one of our best stories.
Yeah, I love that. I love that site, especially as you go through the checkout. The checkout experience there is a great one. And obviously, there you've got different sizes, customizations. There's a lot of complexity in the way that they sell their products.
I think that was a really great project too, because it opened up eyes here at American Eagle into what BigCommerce's potential would be, right? When we were evaluating a new platform, deciding what are we going to do when, as Derek mentioned, it was right at the start. That was my first day I was writing tickets for the Freund project. We were a very small team, and the perception is like, all right, it's a SaaS solution. How much can it really do? Because we've all experienced SaaS stuff. People were very much only in pass models at that point for the impressive projects. And we showed that you can really push the limit with it. And it has a lot of potential. It has all of the bones you need to build experiences like Berlin. And that opened the door for us to take on a lot more ambitious projects. The one that Derek is alluding to, a very large multi-site headless implementation with Fortive in B2B that we're working on right now, that will have international components, multilingual, pretty much every new technology firing all at once, in harmony at the same time, is another project I think we're going to be able to hang our hat on in terms of how we were able to work with BigCommerce to push the limits of the platform and deliver something ultimately new that hasn't been done before, either by us or by BC.
Yeah, B2B, multi-storefront, headless, the whole shebang. It's got everything.
There's so much complexity there, from the large scale of customers, multi-region to your point, but also the complexity of the products themselves. So would love to dive into that a little bit more, but unfortunately, I think we're coming up to the end. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today and kind of sharing your insights, your experience, how you approach projects. I think that's so useful for our listeners, whether they're digitally immature and new to online, or they're very digitally mature businesses but are just looking to improve that experience. The knowledge that you shared, the experience that you shared, I think will really help them frame, how do I approach this project? How should I think about it? Just as we close, one last kind of thought from each of you. Right now, what is most exciting? What are you most looking forward to kind of over the next couple of years in the B2B e-commerce space?
I'll let you go first. Yeah.
I still feel like we're at the tip of the iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, it's as crazy as that sounds. Businesses are still not making that leap into digital, or they're tiptoeing into it. And there's a lot of uncertainty in the market right now and all that jazz. We just got through COVID, and but we're at the tip of, this is the beginning. We're not middle or end here. This is early time. So it's going to be exciting. I'll be talking to you guys in two Derek elder millennials from now.
I think for me, it's very similar, because we are at the beginning, because people haven't fully unlocked, well, what's the best surefire way that everyone's trying to copy and how to do this. It means we can be very creative, both as merchants in terms of what you want to do and as implementers. You can try new things. You can deliver new experiences to customers that they wouldn't have expected, because when you think B2B, you think, this is what I need to do for work, right? You're not necessarily on your phone at night browsing through, but we have the potential to create things that make people enjoy their work and what they go through. And I think that's very important.
I love that. Mike, Derek, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your experience.